The beauty of digital worlds is how easy it is to simply log in. Assuming your connection is stable, these virtual destinations become a hub to dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of wandering players. But just as easy as it is to log in, it's perhaps even easier to log out. And before you know it, all that's left behind is a haunting remnant of what once was. Whether that be entire games that have never seen the light of recognition, or abandoned servers buried underneath a sea of far more popular options, or childhood favorites, once bustling and populated, now found completely empty. No matter the exact answer for what happened, I wanted to see if what awaited inside these realms was a vibrant past looking to be rediscovered, or a shell of its former self merely waiting to be forgotten. Alright, we get it. I had never heard of this game before until I found it stuffed away at the bottom of my Steam library. At least I thought I had never heard of it until I noticed that apparently at some point in my life, I played it for 3 hours? I logged into the game and was greeted by a whole mess of servers. There were some exceptional options to choose from, but I would never forgive myself if I didn't start with... I spawned into some kind of welcome hub before wandering off trying to get a hang of the controls. A little ways away, I tried to break some blocks, but I wasn't able to and needed to be granted permission by an admin or mod. Unfortunately, I'm the only one online. Or so I thought, until I noticed a person and some creatures out in the distance. The creatures kinda clocked me, so I ran for help and discovered the person I saw was actually 2 NPCs. I couldn't talk to either one, and clicking only made my character try to mine them, which sounds illegal, and violence wasn't solving anything. So I ended up combat logging on this crab creature and regrettably moved on from Sloppy World. Next up was another server that caught my eye, Nozardonia. This place was pitch black, had Moonman low gravity, and was overrun with monsters, and I still needed to ask for permissions. That was a bust. 2 servers in, and things couldn't be going worse. But thankfully, Troggington was about to turn it all around. As soon as I spawned in, I tried breaking the ground, and oh my god, I get to play the game. I collected some grass, wood, and even a whole bunch of water. It was also around here that I realized there was a creative cam, which allowed me to get real up close and personal with myself. Oh yeah. I'm looking good. More importantly though, I noticed there was a teleport feature, so I clicked the first name at the top of the list and warped to my new location. This ended up having the first signs that actual players had been here, with a house that was sliced in half. There was a protection barrier around the other half though, so that was pretty intact. Behind the house were a few more buildings, so it seemed like this might have been a small community. The closest one was guarded by another NPC, but I walked in anyway, and immediately something felt very off. Maybe it was just my Sherlock Holmes level of detection, but I've seen that fridge before, and I've seen that news anchor's forehead before. This was the same house, just pre-slicing in half. I'm not sure if this is just a default building preset, but it was a little creepy, so I went to bed. When I woke up, my only logical next step was to head over to the Ferris wheel. I'm not sure if there was actually a way to pay or a code I needed to type in. For all I know, you could get this working. I just didn't. So I enjoyed the concept of the ride and stepped off. There were a few other things around, like a dozen swords I couldn't interact with and some kind of cage. But now that I had seen what the teleport option could do, I wanted to try it again. I scrolled a bit until I randomly saw Pancakes Warrior 11. That'll do. As I materialized, I appeared to spawn in the entrance of their base. I found a dining room where presumably you'd come to take a load off and enjoy some pancakes. Unfortunately, it seems I'd fallen for an epic ruse, as when I stood up, my head was lodged in the ceiling, so I had to re-teleport. There wasn't anything too crazy here, but honestly, it was just really cool to see what I assume is a pretty standard Creativerse base. They've got a chest room, a dock, a mine shaft, and someone named Daughter. So, that's my cue to leave. I warped over to Toast's location, and it was a whole lot of nothing, so I decided to change that by building a small pool over here. I don't know why I did that, but if anyone happens to log on, or Toast if you're watching this, please take care of my pool. Next up, I headed over to Scribble, which ended up being some kind of encampment with all the monsters frozen and all the NPCs forced to work on the farms. Very cool. I ended up walking through a teleporter that took like 3 full minutes to load, and then I just ended up in the middle of nowhere. So that was enough for me. Drizzy Evans, here I come. Wait a damn minute. I'm back. Although I'm sure there were a lot more builds to check out here, I took this as a sign that I should go check out some other servers. So I was greeted instantly by Friendly Girl, and lucky me, they had some wisdom to share. Hi, Shyntos. Free all I 10. Hi, Shyntos. Hi, free all I 10. Free all I 10. Free all I 10. Free all I 10. Alright, I'm not here to waste time. Gun Tracy, prepare yourself. I appeared outside a desert castle town. After that first house we explored, I'm not sure how much, if any of these builds are just like presets, but assuming this was built by hand, it was very, very impressive. Plus, it taught me that there's fall damage. Duel. I awoke deep in some kind of Aztec temple, but when I went through the teleporter, I was welcomed by my new best friends. Down the path was a little neighborhood with some kind of sacred throne layer, though this could just be some kind of porta potty. Either way, I felt right at home. All the houses here were occupied by NPCs. There was even someone locked inside a house with no doors right next to a tunnel marked dungeon. I ventured down the tunnel and got absolutely spooked. I'm serious. I don't know why that scared me so much, but you can see me just completely stop moving because I was frozen in fear thanks to the doorkeeper. Anyways, down deeper into the dungeon and past a lava path, I discovered a containment chamber with a key code required to pass through. I took a wild shot on the password needed and the door opened. My Sherlock Holmes level of detection was feeling pretty good until I realized that seemingly any number could be used to open the door. The staircase down led me to some domain I don't think I was meant to see. There were a dozen lifeless husks walking around this commune being patrolled by creatures from hell. Needless to say, I did not stay down there for very long, and I had a relaxing night by the fireplace. Cheese Pie's area was a platform in the middle of the ocean and a sapphire tower that broke through the heavens. There was nothing on the inside, and I have zero idea if you're able to actually get up this thing, but good lord, what a monolith. I figured I would call it there, but my morbid curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to check out just one more place. I mean, how am I gonna pass up a name like Porpy? I'm very thankful I did stick around because Porpy's place was the coolest by far. There was a kitchen, a library, a vineyard cafe, a chill zone. There was a gaming room. It's like Porpy knew I'd be here. Eventually, I found my way outside and not only noticed some beautiful artwork, but that I was just inside a pyramid. I decided to climb to the top for a better view and noticed there was a few more builds just outside of my vision, so I upped my render distance and watched as the world fully came into view. There was such an absurd amount of stuff here that I figured out how to turn on fly mode just so I could see it all. Also, it made everything lag horrifically. I don't know how many people worked on these or lived in this area, and again, I don't know how much of this was built by hand, but wow. These were exceptional. Castles, markets, clock towers, giant space stations, women, houses. Oh, I'm back. This area was really something else. I flew around for a good chunk of time, letting everything load in and lag the shit out of my computer, but eventually, night had arrived. So I watched as moonlight shimmered across the town and bittersweetly took my leave. Creativerse ended up being far more fun than I initially expected. Am I ever going to have a 2-week Creativerse phase instead of Minecraft? Absolutely not, but I enjoyed my time seeing what others have amassed over the past decade. Not to mention, I only checked out a couple servers and a handful of locations. I'm sure there's a ton more to explore if I ever make another one of these. Before we move on, I do have something interesting that I wanted to share. Like I said, the game came out in August of 2014. August 12th. To be exact. I've had this footage recorded for a long time, and this was not intentional at all, but the day I played Creativerse was August 13th, 2024, almost exactly 10 years later. Anyways, on to the next one. I downloaded this game back in 2012 when I had decided that Minecraft was for babies. Pirates, Vikings, and Knights 2 is a team-based PvP game where you can swear allegiance to one of the three and choose a specific class. There were a decent amount of servers online, and to my luck, some of them were even populated, so I joined the one with the most players, let the game auto-assign me to Vikings, and I was ready to berserker all over everyone, until I noticed the match was completely empty. I explored the halls for a bit, hoping that maybe I was just in a waiting lobby, and I even tried rejoining, but no such luck. I had simply been epically trolled. I attempted logging into a different server, and it seems that I'm in. I let the auto-assign pick my class, and found myself once again ready to berserker all over the place. It was my dual axes versus a bunch of screaming Russians. It didn't take long for me to get utterly overwhelmed by everything happening, especially these goddamn birds. For some reason, they gave the pirate class a lore-accurate bird to control. Get off me! The rest of the match was probably exactly what you'd expect. Me bullheading my way into as many people as possible with a very low success rate. The game feels and controls like it's 2012, so you're welcome to take that as an insult or a compliment. And just when I felt like I was getting a grip on what was going on, the match was over. The next match was much more of the same, only this time, I was a knight with impeccable sniping prowess. The server was sadly having connection troubles and kept restarting, so I figured it was a good chance to check out the only other populated server. After 5 straight minutes of loading, I finally made it into Flat Earth. Actually, I think I'm satisfied. Pirates, Vikings, and Knights 2 is a pretty fun deathmatch game, but easily the main appeal for me was from hearing a bunch of foreign strangers scream at each other, and that was with only a handful of players. I honestly wish I could have seen what kind of hell a full lobby looks like. It was fun revisiting some vaguely nostalgic maps, but I don't think I ever need to play this game again. Let's continue. Patreon.com/Shyntos. Check it out. In 1998, the world was given Underlight. I went into it completely blind from the get-go, and it is by far one of the strangest game experiences I've ever had, so I'm just gonna get right to it. Following a few unsuccessful attempts to launch the game in the first place, including it just absolutely bricking my Steam, soon enough I was granted the chance to log in. Step 1 encouraged me to read the starter guide, so I skimmed it. That would end up being a huge mistake, but I'll get to that later because right now, I gotta make a guy. With everything set up, I had created Laris the Large, and when I launched the game, it was so damn loud. I'm not gonna play it at full volume for you, but oh my god. However, I had bigger problems. Large problems. Or rather, larg problems. For some reason, even though Underlight allowed me to make that my name on the website, it turned out that when actually logging in, I had exceeded the character limit by just 1 letter. So I begrudgingly remade my account, kept it short and sweet with Gout this time, and I was in. From frame 1, you are released into the world to forge your own path. Look at me. I'm a real trailblazer. I didn't spend much time in the hub before attempting to venture out to another area, but that very quickly fell flat. I tried interacting with a few other portals, but no such luck either. It seemed like I was all but trapped here until the solution dawned on me. I was gonna press a bunch of buttons on my keyboard and see what worked. Turns out it was the F key. With the shackles broken and the ability to go through portals acquired, I couldn't be contained, and it only took me 20 seconds short of 15 minutes to figure it out. The next room had some elemental crests depicting what I presume to be various factions you can join, various factions looking for a warrior like me. With a good splash around the fountain, I continued on my quest, hoping to find grand ancient cities. Or really just anything noteworthy at all, like a golden chess piece that I couldn't figure out how to pick up. Eventually, I seemed to find someplace interesting. I entered the upper basin of stars, which meant I had left the sanctuary and could now be attacked. Ah, a flying lizard. May our battle... Jesus Christ! So far, all the sound effects have been pretty peaceful. Some footsteps, running water, teleport sounds. But the moment I was roped into combat, I heard the crustiest damage sound of all time. I wasn't running from this thing because I didn't want to die. I was running for the safety of my eardrums. It's an ambush! It didn't take long for me to get taken down, or more specifically, get collapsed into a soul sphere. I had no idea what I was doing in that fight, or really in this entire game, so I decided I needed to think like it was 1998. And what did people do in 1998 that they can't do anymore? Read. You guys won't believe this, but it turns out the starter guide is pretty important. I learned of a few abilities known as arts that would help me, particularly one called Gate Smasher that supposedly could conjure a mighty lizard-slaying blade. So with my health restored, I stepped back into the upper basin, ready for round 2. That didn't go well. As I practiced getting the hang of whatever the hell this was, someone named Sadara suddenly showed up. I was really not expecting to see another living soul here, so I was extremely caught off guard, but we exchanged hellos and I quickly admitted, I have no idea what I'm doing. In betwixt her rampant giggling, I asked her if she knew how to fight monsters. I also considered asking if they were a real person, but I remembered something from the starter guide that I've been waiting to share. There are no non-player characters in Underlight, aside from monsters. Everything in this game is entirely player-built and community-driven, whether it be leveling up, learning new spells. Almost all functionality requires you to be taught by another player who knows more than you. Not only that, but players are required to roleplay and abandon all past realities as if they are in a dream, incapable of recalling the real world. It's pretty crucial information to mention, which is why I waited this long to tell you. I talked with Sadara for a while, and they very kindly explained some of the basics to me, like how using Gate Smasher doesn't just spawn a sword in your hand, but rather places it in your bag. She whispered to me that whispers were how our characters were supposed to communicate when it involved out-of-character topics. I accidentally replied without using the whisper function, but it's not like anyone else was around here anyways, and with that, it was time for me to formally introduce myself. I'm the aspiring warrior known as Gout. Pleasure to meet you, Sadara. With a few more pleasantries exchanged, I hit her with my classic Gout Shuffle, and I was on my way. Now that I had a new understanding of the game, I could experience just the absolute worst combat of any game ever made. There was no weight or anything to any action. I know the chat said it was clearly beginning to weaken, but 6 hits later, and the only thing weakening was my... I don't know how far the chat can be seen in this game, but I could only imagine Sadara watching in utter disappointment as I failed to utilize anything that she just taught me. Not too long later, she found me again to share more of the basics and requested I go with them. When a woman asks me to do something, I am inclined to follow instruction, especially one that can obliterate enemies with a single attack. Good lord. They explain more of the intricacies needed to become fully immersed with Underlight. I mentioned before that you can only level up and obtain new skills if another player deems you worthy. Well, Sadara has officially deemed me worthy to use push. Astounding. She also leveled up my personal vault art and brought me back to the sanctuary so I could experiment with it. After awkwardly waiting for my dream soul to fill up so I could cast it, I started evoking it. And the game totally crashed. This is not a bit. This is not a funny haha. The program went kaputski and wouldn't even let me relaunch it. Now, the game did seriously crash, that's true. But was I kind of happy about it? Yes. Underlight was far more interesting than I could have anticipated going into it. But much like my YouTube channel, it's like it's so interesting that it ends up wrapping around and going the complete opposite direction. The lack of NPCs and total reliance on the community to keep the game going is really cool. It's ahead of its time. But when there's no community, it's not a great idea. I am, however, a sucker for the environment's visual style. I don't know what it is about that low frame rate water texture, but it gets me going. Free Realms was released in 2009, around the time when these online MMOs that catered more to kids were starting to peak, which is why I'm honestly surprised I never played or even heard of it until I was doing research for this video. I have spent many hours in many random online games. I have essentially tried to make a career out of playing Club Penguin, and yet apparently the squirrel has ever evaded me. In the height of the game's popularity, they reached at least 20 million registered users. But despite what I'm sure were countless fond memories being made, Free Realms closed its doors on March 31st, 2014. And as far as I can tell, there is no current way to play the game how it used to be played. There is an ongoing revival project called Free Realms Sunrise, but seeing as the website hasn't updated since 2020, and they've only tweeted a few times in the last few years, I don't know what you can expect from this, if anything. The only feasible way I found to experience the game is OSFR, which in this context does not refer to oil spill financial responsibility, but instead open source free realms. So come along on this journey with me and my best friend, Tylenol. I had a headache at the time of recording this part. When I spawned in, I clicked around the menus for a bit to see if there was anything cool, and to my surprise, there wasn't. At first, I made my way down the road, genuinely unsure if there was going to be anything at all to discover around here, when I spotted the ride menu. Even though I was already a mythical winged creature, I could choose to travel upon a beach ball, a dragon, a bicycle, a fighter jet, a goddamn Gundam, a hoverboard, Scorn the Hydra King, or a pogo stick. I also happened to make my way to a racetrack, which despite not being able to see a single soul around, it sounded like the crowd was going wild. I wasn't able to go inside the track or interact with any of the carts, so I took my bicycle and dipped. All those ride options, and I choose a bike. Instead of words, I'd like to explain to you with action. Is that a child? Wandering the pathways of this world is an extremely bizarre feeling. Knowing that at one point, there were probably tons of players passing by here with their friends on their way to an abandoned barn, or maybe to slay Scorn the Hydra King. I'm someone who never played this specific game before, but I played a lot just like it. So it's almost like going back and wandering the halls of a school that's really similar to yours, but just not quite. But I upload YouTube videos, so I doubt I'm allowed within 100 feet of a school district. Eventually, I figured out how to open the map, and I warped on over to Thunder Falls Speedway, another racetrack I could not access. I decided instead to warp to one of the more prominent locations on the map, one that I could only assume was the Tilted Towers of Free Realms, Wugachug. To my surprise, there were NPCs here, like Boranug of Wugachug. I still couldn't talk to them, but it was kind of nice to see some names. Behind the town was a fenced-off mountain trail. I couldn't possibly be more equipped for the icy tundra, so I rode my trusty steed to the top. There were a few moments things looked dire, but it was nothing some kickflips couldn't handle. At the peak of the mountain, I gazed upon the town below, and the golden sunset that embellished it all. And once I was satisfied, I of course rode down in style. A little ways away, I spotted a swirling rainbow spire, and without hesitation, I pedaled like never before. Unfortunately, just like everything else, I could not access it even a little bit. It looked like some kind of ancient shrine that I would need all 7 Chaos Emeralds to be granted entry, so I chilled out with my boy, Q-Dip, and thought this was as good a place as any to put an end to the fun. There wasn't all that much more for me to explore here, he says, having only explored 1% of the map. But without anything to do and no players to chat with, this is probably the best I'm gonna get. Even the Black Spore Swamp housing the Haunted Mines combat dungeon had absolute zilch. Free Realm seems like it was a pretty awesome game back in the day, and if any restoration projects come to fruition, I would love to return again. For now, I rest easy with the memories of my son, my bike, and the time I defeated Scorn the Hydra King. I hope you had your fun with Free Realms, because now these realms are no longer free. This game has had quite the journey from being bought and sold just a few years after release in the hopes of revising the game for new players, which didn't happen, to being bought and sold again even more years later. But to my understanding, it seems to be in a good spot right now, with 3 new servers being added over the last 7 years, after 2 decades with only the one. It is just simply in my nature to create the most hulking slab of man that I possibly can. So everyone, I'd like you to meet Big Freddy, otherwise known by his title, Big Freddy. I unintentionally made him look like a Viltrumite. You may be wondering, if I was so set on making a hulking slab of man, why I chose to make him a human instead of a giant. To that I respond, his name isn't Giant Freddy. I poured all my available points into strength because I'm compensating, and aligned myself as a warrior of good. With my bio all filled out, it was time to log in. I've found myself in Big Freddy's living room, a place where stories are told and laughter is sure to be shared. Equipped with the essentials of food, water, and armor in my bag, I walked outside to greet the town and quickly found quite a few players. Or at least I assumed they were players. They all had custom gear on, but were not moving and wouldn't reply to my jolly greetings. Not even good old Kris Kringle. I did end up hearing from someone by the name of Cranky Crow. Before I could continue talking, however, I stumbled into the wilderness and was locked in sudden combat with a pixie that immediately killed me. I was able to resurrect myself right after falling victim, so I stood back up only to get spawn camped by a skeleton. Fortunately, I won that fight and thought it was best to get the hell out while I still retained some of my dignity. As I left, the pixie called out, "Domni Visconsi," which I have to imagine is just a fucking horrific thing to say to someone. I don't even know if I could say that. Cranky Crow mentioned they were on for a few minutes to smoke, and when I asked how long they had been around, they replied, "Since beta." Now, I'm not sure if the Realm Online had any other beta tests aside from the one back in 1996, but if that were the case, it would make Cranky Crow an OG ride or die, and Big Freddy agrees. I'm sure the majority of people still playing this game are players that have been around for multiple decades, so this wasn't super surprising, but still really cool. And then I explained what OG means. I managed to escape these dangerous woods and stumbled across a shop. There was quite a bit for sale here, like your standard mushroom and surfboard. I tried to buy a pink surfboard, but full disclosure, every time I clicked on an item, it would pull up a menu that was not captured by my recording software, so I have no recollection of if I actually bought it. Considering I was flat broke, I'm assuming no. Next door was another shop, this time in the form of an armory. I may not have had the coppers for a pink surfboard, but apparently I had the gold for a full set of iron armor. I unequipped my disgusting, filthy set of peasant armor and donned my brand new set of Kingslayer protection. Seems the mighty desert rattling has bested me. I appeared back in Big Freddy's living room, ate some bread, drank some water, and ventured back out into the forest of... I appeared back in Big Freddy's living room. God damn. It seems that leaving the town even remotely is a recipe for disaster. Now I understood why all the townsfolk were frozen in fear, unable to leave. So I decided to join them by taking a seat and striking up a relatable conversation. You guys ever drink water? Guess they all got rabies. However, Cranky Crow said goodnight with a smiley face. So, yeah. Oh man. And if that wasn't enough, someone left a perfectly fine wizard hat lying around. I got crit by a ghoul? I don't know why I turned into Christopher Walken right there. I got crit by a ghoul. I think I've proven at this point that it's extremely dangerous out here, and my only real option was to never stop moving. If a ghost tries to battle you and cast Atesis Nelaha, you run the away immediately. Now I'd like to play a little game called Misled by Fred. Freddy is a little camera shy, and it's up to you to find his hiding spot. If you guessed behind a tree, you would be correct. Let's play another round. If you guessed walked in heated combat with the dreaded King Kilrog, you would be correct. I should have never left the trees. I appeared back in Big Freddy's living room for the last time. I decided it was time for old Fred to retire. He's just Freddy now. I wish I could have found a few other players or a few other things of note around the world, but I enjoyed exploring through Hell Forest and seeing what it's like to purchase weapons and armor in an RPG from the 90s. Thank you, Underlight. Everybody wish safe travels and sweet dreams to my baby boy Fredward, and of course, to Cranky Crow. I played Roblox so much in the early 2010s, and I thought not only would it be fun to see the bottom of the barrel scrap junk servers, but also revisit some of my childhood favorites. I can't do that though until I've created my account. And I can't do that until I share with you my lore. My original account that was created in June 2011 is called Epic Cool Dude 12. Hi, my name is Epic Cool Dude 12. I'm a pretty nice guy, unless you get on my nerves. In battle, I am a great fighter. I will defend my friends at any cost. My best friend is Drink Coca-Cola 369, and my sister is Pinkbug 9. I love blowing stuff up on here, and I'm incredibly awesome. Unfriend me. I am being incredibly vulnerable reading that out loud right now. I may look like a thug, but behind that plaid shirt and Triforce necklace lies a river of pain. I was a part of the Epic Toast fan club. So everyone, I'd like you to please welcome my brand new account, The Epic Cool Dude. Because fuck 12. I began, of course, by suiting up with an outfit that could set the world ablaze. And after many spectacular, downright inspiring options, I think I put together a winner. For my first order of business, I wanted to check out the servers that my old account had favorited. First up being... Turns out this server had been essentially shut down and integrated into a modern version of Roblox Titanic. What a stupid sentence. So I decided to roll with it and see what was in store. I quickly stumbled across a small boy who appeared to be my son. I followed him out onto the ship deck where I would make like my ancestors and abandon him, instead opting to climb as high as I could and obtain a truly spectacular view. I boarded one of the lifeboats and requested my wandering son to cut me loose and set me free, and then it happened. Iceberg right ahead. It seemed I had joined at the perfect time as we were just about to collide with the iceberg, which in hindsight makes me hopping on the lifeboats before anything even happened all the more comedic. Some immediately abandoned ship in favor of the iceberg lifestyle. Not me though. Everybody knows it's safest at the very bottom. Unfortunately, somehow I caught hypothermia and I left. This server is exactly what you'd expect. Also, for some reason, when I logged in, my eyebrows had just disappeared. I'm pretty sure I had this favorited because at the time, I did not own Minecraft, making it the poor man's paradise. So after I realized I have just abysmal depth perception, I moved on. I remember spending multiple afternoons on this one back in the day. It was classic team deathmatch with fighter jets. I noticed it even got featured on the official Roblox YouTube account 13 years ago. Needless to say, I was excited for this one, and when I logged in, I could tell right away we were in for a treat. I promise you, it's not supposed to do that. I spawned in alone at the red base carrier, once again an eyebrowless man. On the bottom floor was a speedboat ready for the driving, so I hopped in and floored it. Sadly, anytime the boat seemed to pick up even a little bit of some half-decent speed, it would just jitter back to zero. I tried getting in the other boat to see if that would work better, but quickly realized I should not have done that. I got back on the carrier and decided to go for what we were all here to see, the jets. Okay, that one was on me. I don't think I understood the controls. Let's try again. Right after I got the second one in the air, I lost control and tried to jump to safety. Thankfully, I had a parachute. I just wish that dirt was real. The third try, while admittedly just as funny to watch, did not go any better. I could not seem to get the jets to steer at all, and I unfortunately called it quits here. Survive the Disasters is an all-timer. I don't know how popular it is nowadays compared to your Squid Games and Dress to Impresses, but this server used to be cinema. Every 30 seconds or so, a new disaster spawns. These can range from something simple, like needing to collect coins or avoiding a tornado, to random sudden explosions that trap you under a foot of concrete, or PewDiePie. Surviving a disaster rewards you with points that you can spend on items at the shop. My favorite was always the cheeseburger. Excuse me.
Cheeseburgers.
The cheeseburger.
Cheeseburgers.
Before anybody gets the wrong idea, I did not build an inch of this place, at least as far as I remember. This was a default starting area that I'm pretty sure every player had one of their own to access, but seeing as this one used to belong to me, yes, I built it all. I hopped in my sports car and took her up for a spin through Mount Shyntos, across the Shyntos Bridge, and down to the beach. Sadly, Shyntos River had other plans. I spotted a few other cars to try, so I hopped into the river to reach them, but was very quickly sucked away by the current. With no way to fight back, I was deposited into the Shyntos Void. Another classic from back in the day. It's basically Survive the Disaster if the only disaster was continuous tsunamis. You've got to climb up as high as you can and literally just hope that the water doesn't deem your structure fragile. There's not much more to say as it's pretty simple, but the concept is a lot of fun and there's honestly not many others like it. Yet another classic. It's basically Survive the Disaster if the only disaster was continuous mega waves. I know what you're thinking, but no, we haven't done this one yet. That was Survive the Disasters. This is Survive the Disaster if there were 115 disasters, which there are. Alright, fine. Next one. This is, no joke, the exact same server. Be a Blob was essentially just agar.io if you've ever played that. You will never catch me willingly calling it Agario. I clicked on this one because honestly it looked just awful, but credit where credit is due. It's pretty crazy that you can even just make this in Roblox nowadays. So I hung out for a while, sucking up rainbow pellets, until I got bored and let Pikachu eat me. This was easily, far and away, the biggest piece of shit manipulative server I had ever seen. The very moment you spawn in, the screen is just filled with colorful buttons to click on that are all things that cost Robux, the game's currency that, as far as I know, can only be obtained through real-world dollars. You want to be Spider-Man in the Escape Spider-Man game? Nice try, buddy, but why don't you put in your credit card details real quick and we'll get you on your way. Even just hopping through the map, every like 6 jumps had these giant circles of things to purchase. Might you be interested in a fidget spinner? Or perhaps something a little more fully automatic? Now this seemed like a good time. Did Sonic just smack the shit out of me? This was just a Sonic themed obstacle course with some people even running around in Sonic skins. It was kind of awesome, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not one to willingly admit when I'm a terrible gamer, but this log section had me held up for like 2 minutes. The rest of the map was more of the same. I mostly just included this because of Sonic's slap at the beginning. I skated around a bit and found a player by the name of Woo Woo is Rad. I asked them their thoughts on Tony Hawk, and they skated off. I took this to mean that I would have to earn the respect of Woo Woo if we were to converse about Mr. Hawk himself. After all, what's a hawk to a Tony? While I was flailing around on the floor, I noticed that Woo Woo had left, clearly both jealous and fearful of what I had to offer. I considered this a victory and moved on. I felt like I would be making a huge mistake if I didn't shoehorn Club Penguin into this somehow, so here I am. This server immediately had a sign stating, "The new game has been released. Go through the portal." But before that, I wanted to take a look around. The town was looking as lively as ever, and the inside of the nightclub was quite funky. Over by the plaza, I wanted to check out the pizza parlor, where I found another penguin playing the piano. Alright, I've seen enough. Let's check out the new one. Right off the bat, this actually looks like Club Penguin. Like, seriously, not bad. I walked into the coffee shop and got my head stuck in the wall. They even had the bean counters minigame. It was just like a lot harder, and there was zero sound. Apparently there wasn't an interior for the nightclub, but there was for the gift shop, and I got to equip a cool hat. I opened the map, and it unfortunately didn't seem like there was too much done as far as the rest of the map went. There was the snow forts to throw some snowballs. I was seriously here for a solid 90 seconds, and the plaza was done. So I played the Roblox versions of Puffle Roundup and Pizzatron, once again in complete silence, went to the forest and claimed this rock as my own, and decided for the first time in my life, that's enough, Club Penguin. No, don't be stupid. This isn't Club Penguin. Next, you're gonna mix up Tsunami Survival with Mega Wave Disaster. You are better than that. Visually, this place was a lot cleaner with a lot more to do and a working map, but it was just kind of strange. The last map was clearly supposed to be Club Penguin, but in Roblox. But this was like an alternate timeline where everything is almost like how it's supposed to be, but not quite. There was even a dojo with a sensei where you could play Card Jitsu. With a U this time. It was honestly a pretty cool server, and that's all I got. Everybody keeps asking me for Pikmin 2, but I figured I'd just skip ahead and go to Pikmin 5. Huh. Nintendo really took the series in a different direction. I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to do literally anything at all here, and I had to leave. Luckily, I had another server in mind. See, now this is like an actual place where people hang out and not some nightmare hell prison. It's possible I spoke too soon. No, it's fine. I just didn't think they'd look like that. The positive here was that I not only figured out how to assemble a Pikmin army, but also how to utilize them out on the field. I shouldn't be around any living thing ever. It's game time. Everything else was simply training for this moment. I managed to escape and hide behind a bush while I self-revived. Shortly after, I brutally slaughtered Skippy Boy. I heard gunshots nearby and found a rabid pack of scoundrels. I opted to avoid them for the time being until I could get myself a golden scar, and I claimed the life of my next victim. I almost got taken out in the process, but nobody has jukes like I do. Finally, I found a chest, but I was shot down. I used the water as camouflage, but even that wasn't enough. I wasn't gonna end it there, so no hesitation, I dropped right back in and went to my former gravesite. Now that I had some weapons, I was feeling good. I even found, hiding in a bush, the guy who previously shot me dead in the river. They dropped a weapon known as the Ranger, a sniper rifle. I was on an unbridled rampage. And don't give me that, they're probably 11 years old. You know what I was doing at 11 years old? And clearly, that guy had aimbot. I ended up amassing some kind of rival, a challenger by the name of 10 Nelski 10. And I won't hide the truth, they bested me in combat a few times thanks to my bullheaded approach. But once I had slain the man known as Mason and acquired some firearms, I was back on top. I thought that would be the end of it, but after I put a bullet in SpongeBob, I turned around to see Nelski pointing a bazooka right at me. If you come at the king, you best not miss. I started getting a little sloppy and was beginning to lose my focus. I was almost taken out. Thankfully, I stayed in the game, living to see another day. As I went to the roof, I spotted him. Even from this far away, I know it's you, Nelski. Huh? I honestly don't know if someone shot me from behind or if I actually just got hacked on, but that seemed like a good place to hang up my crown. I had a lot of fun with Roblox, probably a lot more than I should have. And if I ever do another one of these, I might have to come back sometime just because there is an avalanche of slop ready to be suffered through. If you'd like to see more of that, then feel free to let me know either in the YouTube comments or by carrier pigeon. Now that I'm done shilling, if you don't mind everyone, things are about to get a little personal. Lights, please.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to more Skyblock, and take a look at what I did. Yes, all completely legit cobblestone. Took me forever. Freaking cactus guy. Oh, what? Freaking soft. We've been playing like all day, and it's been so much fun. We're back after lunch. Burgers. Yeah, burgers. Dessert. Woohoo! And according to Rave's minimap, it's a big one. Of course, I almost fall, and then I save myself, and then I fall.
Yes, unfortunately, that is me squeaking in those videos. I used to make Minecraft Let's Plays, and they are just awful, absolutely horrendous, abhorrent content. And I am so unbelievably happy that I still have them today. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say something along the lines of, I wish I had never deleted my old videos. No matter how disgustingly cringe they were, those are cherished memories that you made, whether it be by yourself or maybe even alongside some friends. I imagine that if you played Minecraft or really any online game, you probably had one server that you were always on. That's where you spent your Friday nights, that's where you forged bonds, that's where you grew up. For me, that's a server run by people who used to be complete strangers, but are now to this day my best friends. Somehow, against the odds, that server is still up to this day, despite going down multiple times, which, side note, peep the IP if you want to check it out. But that is not why I bring this up. That may have been the server that I effectively considered a home away from home, but there was one other server that does not exist anymore, and it never ever will again. I lost the files for it a long time ago, and despite feeling disappointed, I made peace with that fact. That was until I discovered an entire collection of screenshots fully dedicated to that world. I have no idea why me from 12 years ago decided to archive all of this. I don't know if I was expecting to lose the world. I don't even have any memory of taking these screenshots, and yet I am so glad I did. The mess of old pixel art, the McDonald's that everyone who has ever played Minecraft has built, the cemetery that probably should not have been built, the electric company, the armory, the floating house that looked like it had been pulled straight from the ground. Looking at these screenshots shouldn't mean a damn thing to almost anyone besides myself, but I have to imagine that despite that, it's obvious how each one of these photos has a story to tell with its own pocket of information. Like the water slide of failure, which takes you down a normal coaster, drops you into water, lets you sink down to the bottom, only for you to land in a bed of cobwebs that will slowly deposit you into the void. On one hand, I would give anything to have the chance to see this world again, to explore it for myself once more. But on the other hand, this is perfect as it is. It will continue on in these images as if it were frozen in time, never to be altered for better or for worse. The past is a very scary and very beautiful thing. No matter how tough things get, no matter what gets in your way, and no matter how far you keep pushing forward, it's important to remember that as long as people like you and I keep talking about stuff like this, nothing will ever truly be forgotten. Sorry, that was a lot sappier than I expected. Thank you to Anthony Nash, Trinity DiCarlo, Grispacho146, Sintoki, Lyra, Wayward Rosalind, Brennan Grissell, and all my other Patreon subscribers and YouTube supporters. A big thank you as well to Redline for inspiring this video and being an all-around capital V, very cool guy. If you'd like to see more, you're welcome to check out the Patreon and let me know what you thought about the video. Thanks again for watching.